Hello, everyone out there in Milspouse Conversations land. Welcome to another episode of Milspouse Conversations, where we have real raw, real topics, and real conversations. Yes, y'all, we all the way real and live up in here.
Live.
Yes. All right. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We want to give a special thanks to Media Beach Inc. for helping us bring this lovely episode to you. All right, because we have our conversation starter, Miss Anna Bruner, who is going to lead us in a conversation about OCONUS Moves. But before we dive into that, we want to do a quick introduction of our conversation starter. So I am going to shout them out, and they're going to give you a wave as we go. So first up, to my right here, this is our junior conversation starter, Miss Jasmine Jones. Up next, we have Miss Hope Bradley. Then we have Miss Nashida Cruz. We also have Miss Julie Provost. And I am your host, Miss Sybil Jones. You can find all you need to know about us on milspouseconversations.com. Click on the About Us and read our bios, and make sure you go check out each of these military spouses because they all have their own amazing gifts that they have, and you can go check out their sites, learn about them, and support them in their, I like to call adventures, but in their own individual endeavors. So, Miss Anna, are you ready to lead this conversation?
I am.
All right. Take it over, girlfriend.
All right. So there I was, minding my own business in my bedroom. I think I was half asleep, and the spouse comes in and says, "What do you think about Japan?" Like, and so it all started there when he brought up moving to Japan, and it completely caught me off guard. I had no idea that it was an option. And I really didn't know much about Japan. Anyway, and our kids, I think my daughter was 2 at the time, and my son was 5. Or 6. I was homeschooling him. And so it was a lot of emotion all at once. So the emotion started from the process of considering the idea, all the way through the entire process, to coming back. And so it is a heap of emotion. I think no matter how you feel about it, whether you're excited about it or scared about it or whatever, it does bring a lot of emotion. So that's the first thing you have to deal with. The next would definitely be all of the red tape and the paperwork, and all of that it takes to actually get there. Especially when you have kids. So there's that. So you have to be prepared for a lot of that. And a lot of it comes at you as you're doing it. So I don't think, for me, it wasn't something that I could have prepared myself for because it just was never on my radar. And even as it came up, it was something that I learned with my spouse as we went along. We were like, okay, we need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. And even as you learn how to do it, it's a changing thing. Even people on the military installation, you really have to find the right person at the right time to get the right information. So, and the other thing I would have to say going into it is that it's always kind of like something that could, it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden it could stop happening if something goes wrong with all of the paperwork and so forth. So I remember it was like a week before it was the day they were packing us out. So they were packing out all of our stuff. And we get a phone call that there was some miscommunication with something, and it was starting to look like we weren't going to go with my spouse. And so it was just like, wait a second, we're packing up our house, but you know, that's the military lifestyle. You just have to embrace it. So I would say, you know, what I had to learn how to deal with was the emotion of it, and being scared, of course, of going to a new country. And had I known then what I know now, famous, you know, last words that everybody says, I probably would have calmed down a lot. You know, like once now looking back on it, I see how much I gained from the experience, how much stronger it made me, how many people that I met that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And I think that one of the biggest things was that I realized that I got to be a part of a community, a foreign community. Like I literally met, you know, Japanese people that I'm still friends with. And you get to see them, and not as a tourist, you get to be a part of that community. And that's true of anywhere, I think, that you get stationed as a military spouse. You get to be parts of those communities. And that's only going to happen if you open up and embrace that. So I think that was the important thing was, for me, was even though I was scared. I mean, I remember when we first got there, we were living on the mainland. For those of you that are familiar with living in Japan, we were on the mainland in Yokosuka. So it was living in a city, and it was a lot of public transportation. It was very different than if you're in Okinawa, where you use your personal vehicle a lot. So it was a lot of walking around, and we didn't have a vehicle yet. And I just remember that first 2 weeks that we walked so much that my bones hurt. Like, it was like, who can walk this much? You know, and especially when you're like walking back from the commissary with your cart of groceries because you have no car to put it in, and you're sweating, and then you look across the street, you see somebody else walking with suitcases stacked up. You know, I mean, that's just how it is. So all of that goes into the experience. So I know when we had posted that we were going to do this, somebody had mentioned they wanted us to talk about resilience and organization, and how we bounce back. So I think, you know, that's what I learned was the resilience, bouncing back. The organization, I would have to say I'm still working on. That's my lifelong skill that I have to work on. It doesn't come naturally to me. Much to my spouse's dismay. So it did help me with that. But so the first thing that I think many spouses think when they get those overseas tours is, oh my gosh, you know, we're going to uproot, we're going to go to another country. Am I going to be safe? You know, I think, and then your family's wondering, like your parents and so forth, are you going to be safe? So that was the first thing I had to deal with. And of course, the military is not going to send you, you know, somewhere where you're not going to be safe. Not a family. If it's going to be unsafe, they're just going to send the military member. So, so I got through that. And then the other thing is, well, you know, if you have a job or you own a business, what are you going to do with that? You know, a lot of times when you go overseas, because of the status forces agreements, you can't bring your career over there or whatever. You can't do jobs like you would normally. There may be jobs available for you on the military installation. That's a whole other, you know, topic of conversation, but that's the one thing that also kind of takes people, shocks people a little bit, is especially if you are a career spouse that is like a lawyer or a doctor. When I moved over there, I met many spouses, men and women, who literally just had to drop their careers and go over there. But they did it knowing, hey, this is a 2 to 5 year, you know, commitment. And think of what I'm going to get out of this other than just dropping my career for this time. So anyone out there, I think, you know, with that concern, what I would say is you will find your people that are in the same situation and you will build your resources. So I met spouses over there that were lawyers, and they were already building up their own networks of trying to fix that problem of, hey, I'm in this situation, this is how I'm handling it, and I'm going to help other spouses. Because that could happen even if you move to another state, not just another country. So there was that. Like I said, both men and women. Moving overseas also put me in touch with a lot of other spouses that weren't part of our like circle, like, you know, so normally you only meet a lot of spouses from your own squadron or your own command or your own ship or whatever. And so once we got overseas and we did live on base, I got to meet so many other spouses in such a neat way, because we were all on base. You go to all the activities that you can. So I would have to say the one benefit is that MWR is off the chain when you go overseas. They put on some awesome events. I mean, I got to go to so many concerts of artists that were super famous when I was in high school and college. So then to see them, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen them. I saw them when I was in college and whatever. So, you know, I'm the fan in there getting all excited and whatever. So, I mean, I got to see Jimmy Buffett. I got to see people I didn't, you know, really know, but then, you know, there were some Hawaiian reggae artists that we got to see. I got to see Edwin McCain, Nelly, Three Doors Down, Rusted Root, which many of you may not have heard of, but I know Rusted Root, and I was super excited to see them. I've seen them twice in concert, but anyway, those experiences were, I had no idea that was going to be available to me. And so I think, you know, when you have this opportunity present itself to you, you know, once you get through the shock and awe, is to think of all of the opportunities that it is going to bring to you, because it is, and it's going to make you a stronger person. And it's just going to expose you to so much more. So I remember specifically, I think it was towards the end of our time there. We were only there for 2 years. And I was at an event, something that I tried to sign up for as much as I could. So I would piggyback on people's Facebook posts, basically. So, you know, you get involved in all the Facebook groups and you see people's posts of what they're doing and where they went and all that stuff. And so I would piggyback on that. So I found some event, what was that? I can't remember if it was like cookie decorating or it was something, or maybe it was an event on the base. I don't know. But there was another spouse there that came in, and she had already been there as long as I had, or I think they had been there 3 or 4 years and they were about to leave. And she's like, yeah, this is the first time I'm really doing any of these events because I was so depressed and sad for the whole time we've been here. And I couldn't get over it. Like she told me, you know, I just could not get over the anger and frustration and this being scared of being stationed overseas until now. And now we're about to leave. And I'm like, okay, I've got to go do all this stuff and experience all this stuff. And she said, I wish I would have done that to begin with. So, you know, I would say with that, you know, if you do go overseas or wherever you go, you're going to have those spouses, and I would say support them and invite those spouses with you to go places. So when we were going through the orientation, they sent us there. I'm guessing they do this at all the host nations, but they send you through a spouse orientation for like a week. You know, you learn some basics about the language and, you know, all that. They teach you how to drive. So I had to get my license. You know, and then the base commander comes on and talks to you and whatever. And he told us at the time, I remembered, he said, have a backpack by your front door packed and ready to go, so that when somebody knocks on your door and is like, hey, let's go do this, you're ready to go. And that was really, really true. And that's when I learned one of my favorite military spouse skills was being prepared to just be ready to drop everything and go do something fun and have an adventure and not worry about, you know, hey, did I plan it out perfectly? So I did. I had, you know, I was ready to go and participate and do different things because you just didn't know when those opportunities were going to be brought to you and whatever. So, you know, if you have kids, it definitely brings in more, you know, some the other things you have to think about. But, you know, just be prepared and open-minded for that.
Yeah. For you, Anna. So when you were like backing up to when your husband first got the orders, that you guys were going, and like, what was the first thing you did? Like, what was that very first, after you sighed? Like,
I thought he was joking. I thought he was joking. I really did not know that it was an option. I just thought it was, you know, and so once I realized that he was serious, I told him no. But then he kept coming back and bringing it up like day after day. And then I was thinking in my head, you know, and this has always been my thing. I've always told him, I'm like, if this is what you need to do for your career, you know, I'm for it. I mean, I'm your military spouse. That's what I'm here to do. You know, I'm going to support it. Of course, you know, I'll get over it. And so I realized, you know, when he kept asking, that it was an important move and that it would be a good thing. So I just had to get through my own fear and everything that was making me nervous. So yeah, I guess that was my first response. You know, and then when you bring it up to the family, like your parents, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, what? My mom was the only person that came to visit us. I mean, it's a super huge trip to go to somewhere like Japan. You know, you got to have you know, your passport, and the trip itself, I think it was like a 15-hour flight for her and whatever. So she came and visited, and then just getting her allowed to be on base, that was like another thing. You know, I had to go through a whole process just to get her allowed to stay in our apartment and get her on the base and all. It was a lot. So not gonna lie, it's exhausting. I mean, for me, it was mentally and physically exhausting, like the whole thing. But I wouldn't not do it. I mean, I would strongly suggest for anybody, if you have that opportunity for the government to pay for you to go live in another country, take it and go into it with, hey, this is just 2 years. For us, it was 2 years. You know, some people it is longer. And
how many conversation starters? I did, because I'm just curious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How many conversation starters have been overseas?
I've been overseas.
Everyone.
All of us. Yeah.
All of us have been overseas. Where did you guys go?
We were in Germany for 4 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was my first duty state. Like, it was not only overseas, but it was like,
oh wow,
welcome to the Army. So that was
right.
But it was actually a good thing, I think, because we went to a small base, or a small post. There was only 3,000 soldiers. So it was like, this is what the Army is. Immerse yourself in it. And then later we moved to Fort Campbell, which is a lot bigger. And I think if Fort Campbell had been my first duty station, I would have just been like, I don't know what is happening at all. So I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, I think it does put you in that community. Like, it really builds that community, and for me, it was important that my kids saw that, because you get to see the military working. Like, we would look out of our apartment window and see military people dangling from a helicopter into the water, just practicing. You know, so we would see the chiefs during Chief Week running down the street, you know, singing their chants and everything. And then if my kids were taking swimming lessons in the pool, and there were pilots in there doing their qualifications in the pool in their flight suits with the parachutes, it was awesome. But anyway, that was one thing that I thought was cool. But Nishida is overseas now, which is,
yep,
it has been overseas.
Yep, too much. But what I think when my husband first told me that we were going overseas, I was like, I'm not ready to go back, because I had already been in the military. So I was like, no, that's not, I've just made it back here like a few years ago. I'm not trying to go back out anywhere. And then I cried, and then I was like, my dogs have to come. And he was like, no. And then I cried, and then he was like, oh, forget it, the dogs can come. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was fine. But I did not. I was like, no, why are you doing this? But it was for his career. So
yeah.
So like you said, Anna, I was just like, well, if it's good for your career, we could go. But it wasn't something I wanted to do. Not even, but when I got there, I just immediately got a job. I went sightseeing. I learned how to use the train. Me and the boy. Got on the train. We went lots of places. Like my husband left. They brought the pack out to the house. They dropped it off. I went to go get my driver's license, and he let them unpack every single box in the house. So I came back to just like a lot of work. I was like, oh. He left like the next day.
Yeah.
So I just put the stuff away, and I went to work for MWR. And then I just gave back the money to MWR because I put my son in like every single thing he could be in, I guess. So I met a lot of people, but even in the States, I just have trouble holding on to people, I think. Like even if once I leave, it's like crickets a little bit. So, but I enjoyed it. And then we went to Italy and I enjoyed that. But I mean, I am a States person. I like being in the States. I just feel like I have more freedom to work and to find a job and to have a career. But I mean, being overseas, it could be fun. It could be very challenging, like very challenging. I wouldn't understate how challenging it can be, and like you said, you have to get out there. You have to talk to people. You have to form some sort of connection with somebody there, at least a few people. If you're not a people person, you're an introvert, at least a few people. It doesn't have to be a big group of people, but somebody you could talk to. Like I always talk to Sybil. I'd be like, oh, I'll just wait for Sybil and we'll have lunch or we'll go out to the veranda. We'll talk. It was her and like a couple of other people. But
we ate a lot. We were always going to eat.
Yes.
Well, I think the beauty of overseas is that hardly any, unless they are a German, in my case, a German spouse, no one could go home for the weekend. No one, like family would come and visit, but it wasn't as often. You just pretty much had each other, and there wasn't a lot. I mean, sure, you could join a German group, you could get out there and be a part of the German community, but a lot of people didn't totally feel comfortable with that, or it's just, a lot easier to connect with the other spouses because everyone's just there. Like you don't have anywhere else to really go. And I was very thankful for that. And I did not realize at the time how harder it would be to do that in the States because there's just a million other things that people can do. And so like my overall experience there, like I really struggled being over there because I did miss so much about the US. But looking back, it's like, I'm so glad I went through that. Like, I'm so glad I had those experiences because it's like, I can go visit, but like, I don't think my husband is no longer active duty. That's no longer an option for us as a military family. So it's like, that was the only time we could do it. So I say if you get,
it shows the beauty of like community too, like the power in community. Like I've never felt such community as I felt when we were overseas. And unfortunately, we were in Japan, in Sasebo, the summer of the 7th Fleet, where the McCain and the Fitzgerald had all of those, horrible accidents where a lot of people were lost, a lot of lives were lost. And even in Sasebo, we were hundreds of miles away from Yokosuka where it happened. But that small community there, like rallied around those people like I've never seen. It's just, I think it makes you realize how much you really are part of something that is bigger than yourself. It's about more than just your family and your struggles. And so I think that's the beauty of like really living overseas, because you just get to understand the power of this community and this kind of family that we're a part of.
Yeah. What about Jasmine? Like I
was gonna ask, what was Jasmine's
perspective about moving there and how'd she feel?
Well, I had fun whenever I moved because I didn't really have to do anything. I just had to be a kid. And like even when I was older and we moved, Hawaii's like overseas, right?
They consider Hawaii a kind of shit.
When we moved there, I was in middle school. So I had a whole bunch of freedom to just walk around, do what I want. And then Japan, I was like, 8, and we moved when I was 10. And so even there, I was just being a kid walking around, doing whatever.
Well, when your parents told you that that's, where they're going, did you get nervous? Were you worried? Like, were you excited and also nervous, or what were your feelings there?
For Japan, I was excited. I was nervous, but I was excited. And then for Hawaii, I was sad because I had made some really close friends in Maryland we were at. But then when I got there, I was like, okay, this is nice. This is nice. So then I liked it.
You the weather was nice.
The weather was nicer than anywhere.
In Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, I lived in Hawaii. It was my first duty station.
Hawaii?
Mm-hmm. It was my very first duty station. And I was there for a little over 3 years. But my son, he loved Japan. Because like Jasmine said, he was just running around being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like all day, every day. Mm-hmm. The school was right down the street. Like it was just.
I remember when we were in Japan, I have a picture with my husband and the girls. We had arrived, and my husband's uncle had actually told us, as soon as you get there, you get from the airport to the lodge, go for a brisk walk or a jog. Doesn't matter what time you get there. That's what you do, and it will reset your internal clock. And he traveled over to the lot. So we get there. It is late at night. No one wanted to go with me, but I went. I didn't go for a run. I went for a brisk walk, and I was good. Like the next day, it worked. For everyone else, they were like,
I was like in a fog for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they were like,
what day is it?
But I have a picture of the kids. They had zero clue what was going on. We were walking to the car, and my husband had his sea bag because he was flying out to meet the ship. And they're just happy. And like I remember they're skipping with Daddy. And we dropped him off. And it was the first time that I drove in Japan. Because we went to AOB. You were talking about AOB. We went to the AOB class the second day that we arrived, because we went right in and all the classes, did our driver's test, but I wouldn't drive. I was afraid to drive. So the first time I drove was at night. After dropping my husband off, I turned the music. I actually turned the radio completely off and told everyone to just shut up. Don't talk. You cannot talk. Do not talk. I have to drive. But I still look back at that picture because they had no clue that Daddy was leaving. And that next morning, I remember my middle and my youngest asking where was Daddy. And every day it was Daddy's at work. And they were just like, okay. Because
yeah.
I guess as Jasmine said, in their mind, it was the same. They were being a kid. They're out playing. I'm unpacking the house. They're just outside running around playing, having time of their life.
Like, I think we compare like how we grew up, like to like the current situation, like, oh my gosh, we're overseas, this is so different. And our kids, this is their childhood, like this is what they know, and so it's like to them it's not weird, it's just
right.
That's the way it is, like whether we're talking about living overseas or deployments or whatever, like that's just the way it is for them.
Yeah.
Well, my youngest one, she didn't even realize, they don't even have the concept of what it means to be in a different country, right. Let alone a different state. But I would say whoever is out there listening and watching, or if you're watching the recording, to put in the comments what would be like, if you've never lived OCONUS, what would be your biggest fear? What would make you nervous? What would make you excited? I would love to see that in the comments. you know, what would be where would you want to go? You know, so
where would you ladies like to go? If you could go overseas now, where would you go?
I would want to go to Germany.
Germany?
I want to go to Spain. Give me all the wine with all the bread and all the cheese.
I think I would want to go back to Germany with older children, because when we flew over to Germany, I had an 18-month-old and I got pregnant with my second. And so I was all about...
Wait a minute. You got pregnant while you were flying there?
In flight?
Not quite. Like right when we landed, but because we had to like move somewhere and then get pregnant. But because I'd like to experience it with older kids who don't need me like that. Mm-hmm. And we could travel more and do more. I feel like we could just do a lot more as a family. But then I'd also like to go to like Japan, somewhere completely different than Germany. So I don't know.
So the super cool thing for Japan too was my oldest was in 7th grade, 8th grade, and then did the first semester of her 9th grade there. 8th grade, something like that. And so when they're in high school, she actually played varsity volleyball, and she got to travel for volleyball. Like she got to go to Korea. She got to go to Okinawa. And it was like, that's one of her favorite memories. She's like, that was the coolest thing, that I was on the varsity volleyball team and we would like fly to Korea for the weekend. And I was like, yeah, not a lot of like student athletes get to say that.
Right. Yeah. That's the other opportunity, is that it does open the door for you to go. Like we got to go to South Korea and Guam, you know, places I never thought that, you know, barely knew existed, let alone would get to go to. So yeah, that's an awesome thing.
Yeah, my oldest two have been to, I think they had been to like 11 countries before they started kindergarten. Like it was crazy.
That's awesome.
Wow. Where would you go, Nishita? If you could go anywhere else?
Oh, since I'm overseas, I would probably go to back to the States. I'm already here. Let's see, we've been to Japan, we've been to Italy, and then you travel around when you're in Italy. I don't know, I would just go home, I guess. I don't know.
What about you, Jasmine?
I'll go back to Japan as a teenager. I feel like I'll have a lot of fun. Or I'll go to Italy.
Look, for some reason, I can picture her talking about, I'm going to get on the train and go to Tokyo.
Yeah.
I would.
Like,
so this is y'all, if you have teenagers, honestly, rural Japan is a great place to be. My teenager, literally, she was in 9th grade. She rode the bus from downtown to Hario, but she fell asleep on the bus, or not the bus, the train. She fell asleep on the train accidentally. By the time she woke up, she was in almost all the way to Nagasaki. It was the last train of the night because she was coming home from seeing a movie on base with her friends. So I'm freaking out. But they ran one last train with just her on it from Nagasaki all the way to our train station that was by base housing.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, well, you know what? When we were in Japan, I remember seeing like little 5-year-olds catching the train alone. And that blew my mind. But look, I won't lie. I was asking those little 5-year-olds to help me navigate the train system, because do you remember when we were first there and we rode that train? We were just going between Yokosuka, Eigo.
Okay, yeah.
We could not. It was this one stop that I think we've gone too far. We needed to go one more stop up, but we literally, like, we did this for like 2 hours, just back and forth.
But it's all good because they have beer in the vending machines at the train station.
Oh, the vending machines. Somebody dressed up as a vending machine on Halloween. You know, the Japanese vending machines. they dressed up as one, and it was awesome because they're everywhere. I remember one time we went somewhere and it was nothing. It seemed like it was like a mile of vending machines just lined up beside each other. And it was like my kids loved it.
I would get hot chocolate on my way home from school.
Yep. My son still wants the the vitamin C drinks, the CC lemons, the CC lemons.
Yeah. We were always at a vending machine, like, because we were always on the train, like always on the train. Like we would go on the train every day, just go anywhere. Stop. We're gonna stop here. We're gonna stop there. Sometimes you could just stop in the train station, like it's a whole world in there, and then get back on the train. You don't even have to pay again. You just get back on the train because you're on that side of the turnstile. Yeah, that was fun. And we would hit up all the vending machines. We try all the snacks, and some of them were not good and some of them were good, and we would just do whatever, like every day, almost every day. You know, if I wasn't working or he wasn't in school during the summer, it was like crazy. I did enjoy that. But out here in Misawa, you have to drive around a lot. You can't. The train is like a 5-minute to 7-minute drive, and then it's like a 30-minute walk. So you can't really, and it's not. This is a very like, it's not a big city. Like the closest big city is Amari, and it's kind of like Yokohama-ish, but it's not like, it's a mountain region, so it's not like it's not like Yokosuka. But you could get on the plane from here and catch the plane to Yokosuka in like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that.
I tried to do a lot of the MWR trips, you know, where you know, I liked those because I felt like it was easy, you know, that I could just get on the bus and they would take me somewhere, and they, you know. I liked that. Yeah. So I would look
up the MWR trips, and then we would just go ourselves on train. I worked for MWR, so it's like I didn't want to be
right.
I think ours were the USO trips, and I did one to Dachau, and then I did one to Amsterdam. And it was nice because I had the little kids, and so my husband just stayed with the kids, and then I could go on those trips, and it was like got to meet new friends and have fun traveling.
Yeah, because those trips, you know, even we went on a few, and we went to an amusement park. I forgot, was it Mount Feed?
And you left me with just random.
I did. So because you're on the bus, and you know that everyone, not to say, because I'm gonna say, like, just because you are military doesn't mean that, you know, I trust you. Like, I'm just saying, like, you know, everybody, you're still a human being. I'm just saying. But she was wanting to ride this roller coaster, and my other two kids did not want to ride these roller coasters. And there were a couple of sailors. They were still young sailors, you know, they're in their early 20s, and they were like, yeah, sure, she can ride with us. And female, they were female, because y'all looking at me like, you let her go off with some strange men.
It was like 3 girls.
Yeah,
the rest of them were dudes.
Well, yeah, it was mixed company. I know if y'all are people are watching, like, wait a minute, why wouldn't she I'm not gonna let my little girl go off with really anybody. But I was comfortable with them. They were cracking jokes on the bus, and we kept running into them at the amusement park. And so she did ride one roller coaster, and I waited. And then she wanted to ride this other one. And they're like, oh, she can ride with us. So we walked with them to that one. My other 2 kids, they wanted to do something else. So I did, yes. As a mother, I said, here's you some yen, and I'm out.
I'm out.
Make sure she is back on the bus with you. And they had pictures, and actually one of the young ladies, we became Facebook friends, and it has been really nice watching her, following her now, because she is now a mother. So, you know, I am watching her, you know, her daughter, she has a little girl, grow up. And so, yeah, it's been really interesting watching that. But yeah, you meet people, talk to them on the bus. Hey.
Yeah.
I think that people are, like, everywhere we've been, we always meet nice people.
Yeah.
Like, even in Italy, we've always met nice people. And in Japan, we've always just met nice people. So we never had a bad experience, except for just sometimes people would stare at us or want to touch us and stuff like that. That was always weird. They want to touch your hair. And before I could even know, they'd be touching my son's hair, like, oh, look, let me touch him, and touching his face, and like, like trying to see. I don't know what they were trying to see, but like, and some people would be kind of like mean mugging us. What Jasmine?
Yeah.
Oh, in Hong Kong, when they would just take pictures with us. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People do just in the Asian countries, they will just take pictures with you. Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, but I've had people film us eating. It's weird. Like they'll be sitting there with their phone, like,
Wow.
yes, or taking pictures. Yeah, it's weird. But we always met nice people.
Yeah. So I have a question. What would be your number one tip to a military spouse who is preparing to move OCONUS right now? Everybody,
Mine would be just relax.
Yeah.
Relax and take a deep breath. And lots of people have been through this before you. Lots of systems are in place. Try to just take some time to yourself and just know everything's going to be okay. That's what, because you could get so stressed out thinking about what's going to happen. Am I going to be okay? Am I going to meet people? You're tearing me away from my life, but then it's another exciting life there if you want it. But you have to be willing to reach out to people. Like if you're at your house, nobody can hear you in there by yourself. So you have to be willing to reach out and talk to other people. And if you need mental health, don't be afraid to go get that help, because it's nothing wrong with that, because there's so much stress. It's so many things, so much paperwork, so much getting this, getting that, moving here, so much news. Oh, but you need this, or you didn't get that, or you didn't go here, or you need to go back. You could get really stressed out. And so for your mental health, just try to relax as much as possible and seek help if you need it. It's nothing wrong with it. And also that if you're going to a big command, they have sheets and blankets and stuff there. Like I see that in the boards all the time. What should I bring? Pack all your sheets and all your blankets. And like you get out here and half of the stuff doesn't even fit, because it's just a different country. So just, check what the local store here is like. Here, we don't have a lot of stuff here. This Air Force base doesn't have a lot of things. So you would need to order, but Amazon delivers. Don't forget that. Like Amazon delivers. In Italy, they have Amazon lockers. When we were in Gaeta and even near Naples, and just different things that use your technology, and just like I said, just take some time to yourself, process it, and don't be afraid to have fun. That's what I would say.
I'd say make sure you're getting off base, make sure you're getting off post. Like even if it's to go to the grocery store in the economy, like at least once a week. Like even if you're nervous, even if you're scared, like you don't even have to buy anything. Just like go for walks and explore, and because you might never have this opportunity again. And another tip someone told me that I thought was good before we went over there was try to take the trips that you can't easily take from the US later. So like if I'm stationed in Germany, don't go over to England. That's a little bit easier to do from the US. Like go to the little towns, go to the areas that you probably wouldn't plan a trip. And I thought that was good too. And take a class on the language.
Girl, yes.
I wish I would have done that, and I did not, but take a class.
Yeah, I would say, and two, the easiest way to get started is to just see what all is available through the base resources, because there is so much available there. And then as you feel more and more confident, then you can go out on your own. And I would say for me, the biggest thing was meeting a couple of other spouses when I first got there, and I just kind of tag teamed with them and followed them somewhere, you know, and then that's how I kind of learned my way around. So meet another spouse. You don't have to be best friends, you know, it doesn't mean anything, you know, you can just go say, hey, I've got kids the same age or don't have whatever. Can I follow you? I would say definitely be open that way to meeting other people quickly and tagging along. And like Nishita said, relax. And I would say relax through the whole thing too, because so much hits you even while you're there. There's so many policies and procedures and rules that you have to keep up with. And then you get to, for me, it was, oh my gosh, there's so much I want to do. How am I going to do it all before we leave in 2 years? And so then you start getting nervous about and stressed out about how are you going to get everything done? And so I would say, just do what you can and what's available to you. And that's enough. You know, you did more than you would have had you not been there.
Oh, sure. What piece of advice do you have, Hope?
So the first thing we always do, no matter where we're moving, once we have hard copy orders, because you never get excited until you have hard copy orders. We should all know that by now. And even sometimes when you have hard copy orders, you're still are going to be like, oh, oops, just kidding. That's happened before too. But we always will do like either like a TripAdvisor search or like a YouTube search. We'll do like the top 10 things to see in Sasebo, Japan, or the top 10 day trips from San Diego, California. And we do that as soon as the orders drop as a family. Like we sit around the TV in the living room as a family and think about all these cool things that we're going to get to experience and share. And that kind of helps mitigate some of the initial like stress of, oh gosh, I've got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then, oh gosh, you know, my little girl's leaving her best friend, or my kid's gonna miss junior prom or whatever. It helps alleviate some of that initial just shock and panic to kind of go ahead and have something to look forward to, something positive that you're already excited about. And then it helps kind of sustain that through the process.
Right. All right. Jasmine, do you have a tip for
Jasmine,
for the young folks?
I don't know. Learn the culture. I think, yes, learn the culture and just embrace it. Because it's not like we're doing anything. Like, we don't got the big stuff to deal with. So just enjoy the area you're in. That's it. And go exploring.
Go exploring. Mm-hmm. Well, my tip would be you don't have to pack your entire house when you go overseas. They do provide long-term storage. So utilize that, because when you get overseas and you have too much stuff, because a lot of times, depending where you go, I've heard Singapore housing is pretty nice and large, but I know for us, when we went to Japan as well as Hawaii, the homes were a little smaller, and I'm extremely thankful that we put more in storage than I originally planned, because when we got there, it was a rude awakening. Like, oh my gosh.
But you're probably gonna buy stuff.
Yeah.
You don't want to go over your weight limit.
Yes, because there is, yes. Everyone,
like some people did when they moved back.
What are you telling on yourself?
I'm telling on myself.
So it's so true though, because that's the advice, isn't it? If you get in those message boards, a lot of people are like, bring this, bring that, bring this, and you mess around and bring all that stuff. It's like taking too much clothes on a vacation. You know, you don't have any room in your suitcase left to bring.
Right, but how are you going to bring the stuff back if you don't have any room?
Right.
And I will say, like, even for us, when we packed, heading to Japan and to Hawaii, we each went with one suitcase. We had one suitcase and we had one carry-on.
Because you got to lug that stuff through.
Lug that through. You're in the lodge. So we were in the Navy Lodge waiting for housing. So, I mean, I know some people have to pack a lot, you know, you're packing for your kids or whatever. But be a little mindful of how much you are really packing. Do I really need to take this? Because you could go to the exchange. There's no need to pack 50 bottles of shampoo. You can go to the exchange and get you some shampoo. So that would be my tip. So Anna,
we had 2 dogs. We had we only have one luggage and one carry-on too. That's our standard fare. And then we had 2 dogs, and like every time you get off the plane, you have to go transfer the dog yourself. So it's like, if you have pets, also just plan ahead, because make sure you're on those MAC flights because they fill up fast. You know, make sure you're getting in that paperwork as quickly as you can, and you're corresponding about it. And also that if you do have pets and you have to go through the regular airport, that you're prepared, because you need your paperwork. You need to not have so much luggage, because the more luggage you have, it's just like can be really stressful. It can be really stressful.
And make sure too that you utilize your sponsor. You have a sponsor that is on that other end, that is there to answer questions for you and to help you. So make sure that you make that connection with your sponsor sooner than later. And as Nishita said, if you have pets, like look up what the regulations are for the country you're going, because it's different for each country. Like know what that is and make sure you are prepared, that your pets are prepared. And because those bad boys, you have to pay. You paying for them. And look, you be like, how much is Carlos costing me? Oh, Carlos, you need a job. You act like you pay some bills up in here, but you don't pay nothing.
And they have to go through their own paperwork and red tape to get approved.
Yeah, so make sure you have all that information and that it is taken care of sooner than later.
It always amazed me that some of the dogs that I would see over there, that I'm like, how did you get that dog over here? It would be like the biggest dog I've ever seen. I remember it looked like a bear. And they had 2 of them. I'm like, how did you get those over here?
Yes. Hey. So guys, we're going to wrap this up because we can talk for days about OCONUS Moves. We can have another conversation about OCONUS Moves. We can touch on, the passport process, right? Because there is a process that you need.
Yes.
You have that no fee passport, and it's good to have that regular passport too. But we can talk about all of those things because we have a lot of conversations throughout the year, because we are here every first and third Thursday of the month. As a matter of fact, the next talk is March 18th, and we are going to talk about CONUS Moves. So be ready to get in on that conversation. If you have any questions, you can send those in ahead of time if you would like, or you can comment. Even if you're watching this recording, you can leave your comments and we'll come back and we will answer those questions. So March 18th here, again, right here, we will be streaming live. Couple other things. We want to thank Media Beach Inc. for sponsoring this episode of Milspouse Conversations. We are also still taking submissions for the month of the military child. That deadline is March 21st. You can send a photo, a 3 to 5 sentences about your military child, you can send that to to us at milspouseconversations.com. You can send a photo. We will only use first names. So if you send us the first and last name, we may use the last initial, but we're not going to put the full last name on there. And if you don't want to use a photo, you don't have to use a photo. You can just send a blurb, because we are going to make those infographics for our social media and add all of them into a blog post, and shout out to all of the military spouse kids right there. We are also going to be taking love stories for the entire year. We started doing it for Valentine's Day, but we want your love stories. We want to know how you met your boo. We want to hear it. You can send that to talk to us at Milspouse Conversations. You can send a photo in, a little story, and we will put that into an individual blog post. We want you to go to our Instagram page. That is Milspouse Conversations. Go over and follow us there, as well as our YouTube channel, Milspouse Conversations. What else do we have? Coming up in April is the month of the military child, and we have a special treat for you, because we're going to have some military kids leading the conversation. This is going to be good, because they going to tell us about their experience. So we're going to turn it over to them and let them talk to us about their experience with military life, because it's different. It's different. So we think it's important to hear from them. So does anyone have anything else to say, to add?
I would say feel free to reach out to us. Like I said, put in the comments your questions, or reach out to us, let us know what your thoughts are, and we can address it in the conversation.
Yeah. And topic ideas, bring them, because we want to talk about what you want to talk about. We here for it.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any final words, Jasmine? No? All right. No final words. Have a good night. Peace out. Get some rest. If you're watching this in the middle of the day, have a wonderful day. Peace out. See you later.